This episode of Rookie Hunter is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation. Adventures in sheep country can change your life, and as residents of BC, we're very fortunate to have 3 different species of sheep in our province. After attending the Wild Sheep Foundation's annual convention, Sheep Show, in Reno, Nevada, we got to see what conservation looks like firsthand. The Wild Sheep Foundation's ability to raise and put millions of dollars on the ground each year to keep these majestic animals on the mountaintops worldwide is unmatched. The Wild Sheep family is a diverse group of people from all walks of life, and membership is open to anyone. Whether you're a seasoned pro, it's your first time on the mountain, or you just like to see sheep on the hillside, you can sign up and join today. Kelly and I are lifetime members, but you can become an annual member for just $45. You can also become a member of the Less Than One Club, which is the only club you want to get kicked out of. If you've never taken a North American or international ram, you can join us in the Less Than One Club for an extra $25. Plus, Less Than One Club membership also includes entry into a draw for 3 separate Doll sheep hunts, which will be given away at Sheep Show in 2019. For more information on the Wild Sheep Foundation and to become a member, head over to thewildsheepfoundation.org. Hey guys, welcome to episode 68 of Rookie Hunter. Today on the show we've got Adam Foss. Adam Foss is a well-known bow hunter. He's a co-founder of Foss Media. He's a filmmaker, photographer, all-around good and talented guy. We took advantage of our time with him to discuss sheep hunting. As most of you know, we're going to be planning a trip here for 2019, and thought this was a perfect opportunity to talk to a guy who spent a lot of time chasing sheep, and he's also been very successful in that pursuit as well. So hope you guys enjoy this one. We're headed to the Jurassic Classic this weekend in Chilliwack, BC, and we're definitely going to be doing some podcasting from this event. So look forward to sharing more about it and talking to some great people while we're there. Please keep the emails and messages coming. All of our contact and social media information is up on our website, which is theRookieHunter.com. Would also appreciate it if you supported our sponsors, North Arm Knives and the Wild Sheep Foundation. Links to their sites are up on our website, so please head over there and support those guys. It means a lot to us when you support the guys who support us. Let's get into this episode. Sit back, relax, crack a cool beer, and enjoy episode 68 with Adam Foss.
Good. We got coffee.
Adam, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming up.
You betcha.
Well, geez, we were just talking before we started recording. Seen you a couple times throughout the year. The first time we met up here, I think you were semi-homeless and thinking about calling the Okanagan home. Are you thinking about setting roots down here for a bit, or what's the plan?
Yeah, we've been here, for about 7 months in the Okanagan and loving it so far.
Yeah.
Obviously, we travel around a little bit for work and stuff like that, but it's been great. My mom grew up here. She's got lots of family still here, and
nice.
It's been awesome. And of course, the dreary grays of winter are over now, and now we're into the best part of the year, and why we love it here. So it's been great so far. Yeah, for sure.
What else you been working on in the? I guess it's sort of the off season, but not so much for the work side of things.
Doesn't really ever seem like it. So, we did a pretty big trip down to Argentina, Patagonia down there.
Right.
And so that was about a 4-week project, and just getting back in all the editing from all the photography and videos that we did down there. So we were doing some red stag hunting with a bow, and a bunch of fly fishing and some upland bird hunting as well for Patagonia River Guides. It's a really awesome outfit down there, and they do sort of multi-activity foyers into the mountains from all the activities I kind of mentioned. But so we were working on that for the last few months, and then we just got back from Haida Gwaii, Queen Charlotte Islands. Right. Just coming in pretty hot from that and moving a little bit slow, but that was a great trip as well. Just beautiful country, and really the people were what made it what it was. Just very generous, nice people, and
awesome.
You get into, I don't know if you spend much time on Vancouver Island or any island, really, you kind of settle into the island pace.
It takes a couple of days to ease into that, but
and out.
Yeah, totally. And that's probably the hardest part, is coming out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So we just had a great trip and realized that one thing was going to lead to another on that one, and that's how it did. So it was super fun.
Cool.
And yeah, we're just back and gearing up for the rest of the summer and fall, and caught me at a good time, kind of unpacking for one trip and packing for another. It seems like.
Where are you off to next?
We're gonna be. I've got a awesome engagement party to go to this Saturday coming up. My brother's getting married at some point, and really excited for him. And so that's over in Calgary.
Cool. And
then pointing the truck north and heading up to chase some stone sheep.
Excellent.
With my wife Frankie. So we've done a lot of great stuff together, and it's been really fun to see her sort of develop this excitement and passion for being outside. She doesn't hunt herself, but she loves just the aspect of the places that she gets to go and living out of a backpack, and she loves glassing and spotting animals. So
cool.
So she's going to come with you, but she's not going to hunt.
Exactly. Yeah. She actually ranged a buck that we killed a few days ago up on the islands, and she was like right on my shoulder, and we were kind of sneaking in. And
nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's
it was
pretty
really
cool, man.
Yeah. So yeah, we're pumped, and really just switching gears, dumping stuff out of the truck and putting stuff back in, and catching up on work. And
right.
Yeah,
awesome.
Kind of delaying that this morning with a coffee and hanging out with you guys, which is great. It's actually what I'd rather be doing. Talking about sheep hunting, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
For sure.
And you said you got into, tried to get into some blacktail on Haida Gwaii?
Yeah, we were chasing them around up there.
Yep.
There's lots of deer. I mean, by the nature of the animal, they're a non-native species up there. This population just exploded.
Yeah.
So they don't really have any predators. It's a pretty healthy season and a pretty healthy bag limit. You can have 5 of them in your possession, and you can kill 15 over the year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're small. They're tiny bodied, and their antlers are nothing impressive or anything. But it was actually super fun to go do, and you're getting lots of stalks in, and
yeah, is it pretty challenging? Are they quick little? Not so much.
I wouldn't say. I would say the challenge would be sort of navigating through all the deer, and there's like does, and you're just sort of trying to slip around, and they kind of keep popping up, and they're small, so sometimes you don't really know. You're kind of coming up and rolling through this stuff, and one will appear that you didn't know it was there. You're stalking a buck, and there was a doe over here, or there's another buck that you didn't see. So that was a bit challenging. But they're so numerous that you have so much opportunity. So, most hunting, if you're trying to find an animal and put some stalks together, a lot of time is spent in trying to be in the right place and find them and put a stalk on, maybe get a couple of stalks over the course of a week hunt or something.
Right.
Whereas these are, you can stalk them morning, noon, and night, right? So your percentages are way increased because you're getting lots of opportunity. So
cool.
A great animal to hunt with a bow, I think.
Right.
Because there is a lot of opportunity, good chance to learn how to sort of move and what you get away with, what you can't. And they taste really good too.
I bet.
They taste so good.
Yeah, we haven't got anything with a bow yet. It's a whole other level, right?
Yeah.
But you're hunting exclusively bow, right?
That's correct. Yeah. No, that's just what I grew up doing. And so in the in southern Alberta, in the Calgary bow zone, basically it's all archery only, all around the city.
Yep.
And that's where I grew up, just west of Calgary and Cochrane. And then further west, you go out to Canmore, and there's an archery only sheep zone for bighorns. Yep. So it's 410 Canmore bow zone. And so we just spent a lot of time going back and forth through those 2 areas. And really the best opportunity was to be hunting with a bow in that time because one, we lived there, and 2, bucks and animals could get bigger because they weren't getting pounded off the road every time they had something on their head. So and it was just a great time to grow up and opportunities to hunt, hunt sheep and mule deer, whitetail, elk, mule deer every year over the counter. So I just kind of grew up doing it. And
how old were you when you started?
I was 12 when I started hunting. Legally, I guess. for big game.
Yep.
Not that I was hunting illegally before that, but chasing gophers and skunks and stuff around since 5 or 6 years old, and kind of going out with my dad.
Right.
As a youngster poking around, and so 12, you're legal to hunt in Alberta, and killed my first deer, I think, when I was 12. So
nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
And hunting's big in the family.
It is, yeah. I've got an older brother who gets after it pretty good, and he's done lots of stuff all over. He's about 5 or 6 times crazier than me, I think, and he's done a fair bit of stuff in Asia, and he just likes the really, really challenging stuff that tests you, and I think that's a whole part of his mentality, is sort of getting into this space where the harder the better, and just sort of upping the ante each time. We've really seen that, I guess, over the last few years, that every single time he does something, and the next thing he does is maybe a little bit harder and a little bit harder, or a bit different way. He doesn't really go, oh, that was kind of fun, I'd like to do that again. It's just sort of ratchets up.
Pushing it,
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme in the sheep hunting community. It's that challenge, right?
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I mean, I imagine that. So, did you start hunting deer? Like, was deer your big? That's where you started with big game, right? And then you kind of graduated into sheep and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, sorry to interrupt you.
I was just gonna say, like, what is it about sheep that kind of drives you to, hunt those kind of animals?
I think that I was just thinking about this the other day. It is much about the place that it takes you and the animal in context, right? So if you have a bighorn sheep living in an alfalfa field, it's a beautiful animal. It's got big curling horns and a dark cape, and sort of have this air about them, the way that they walk and carry themselves and interact with other sheep, and they just have a really sort of regal presence about them. But in that context, they are only that. And I guess when you take them up to where they live, and where I grew up in the southern Alberta Rockies mountains that are sticking out of the sky, and these basins that are just endless with rolling hills, and it is such a magical place to be and wander. And I don't think that a lot of people, myself included, would really go there just to go for a hiking experience.
Yeah.
And sure, you can hike the Rockies, but to go and sort of poke back into these back bowls that maybe only sheep hunters have gone, because why would you go through 2 kilometers of blowdown and scramble up through the rocks to just go on a nice hiking trip, right? You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so it is as much about the place as it is the animal, and where it takes you in mind, where it takes you in body, and sort of the value you get from having those experiences.
Yeah, that's what we found, when we were up there. We didn't come back with anything, and we did not feel like it was a wasted experience whatsoever. It was just amazing to be there. If it happened the same way, and I knew it was going to happen the same way, I'd still go back, right? Like, it's not about the animal, really.
That's awesome.
But on the other hand, it would have been nice to stumble into a couple stone sheep. But, we're thinking about doing that next year, potentially a fly-in. So, it's great to have you in here, because, you're pretty experienced in, different species of sheep. And I think you've done a couple stone sheep hunts in your day as well. I believe, just to kind of introduce your background a little bit, you were one of the youngest people to ever get a grand slam with your bow. Is that true? I hear there's a younger guy that's...
There's a young guy named Lincoln Tapp who's an awesome young man, just a great human being, and good friends with him and his dad. But at the time I was, and just super fortunate to be able to go and do that, and living in Western Canada now, there's just tons of opportunity to go out and chase sheep. And I think that traveling around and trading stories with people and being at the sheep show where I met you guys, you take it for granted a little bit. You talk to somebody from the lower 48 and you say, we can hunt however many species of big game in BC, and then 3 different species of sheep, or a couple of them over the counter. It takes them a while to pick their jaw off the floor, because they just have no concept for how awesome that is. And I think that living here yeah, maybe we do take it for granted a little bit. So I'm pumped to hear you guys are going to go and give it a go.
You're totally right about it was kind of an eye opener for us to be at Sheep Show and guys are asking us, oh, what's your plan for next year? And we're saying, oh yeah, we might go for moose. Like, why? You're not going to go for a sheep hunt? Like you just buy that over. I think it was Cody that was giving us shit for
Cody Rich.
Not doing a sheep hunt. But we're so spoiled that it's like, you could put a list of different hunts on the wall and throw a dart at it, and each will be a unique experience to its own. So absolutely spoiled. But sheep, I think last year, the quote unquote sheep hunt that we did was a great introduction. We didn't really know the area that we were getting into so much. We did as much research as we could to kind of, find out what the valleys were like and where we were trying to get to. But then when you get there on the ground, it's a totally different story. And we were hiking in right off the highway. So it was a much longer trip than we had expected to get to where the sheep were. And we were kind of on the border of where they were, I think.
When I look back at those pictures, we were pretty close, I think.
It would have been another day and we would have been in there.
But just bushwhacking, or what was slowing you down?
Oh, man.
Well, we were following a pretty big river, which, the river was pretty low at that point. So it was a lot of river rock and we lost the trail for a while. So, just stumbling along the riverbed with these big packs on. And then we kept crossing the river and over again because these horse trails, they just split off and go wherever. So we lost the trail multiple times. And we found on the way back where we knew this is where we have to cross. We don't have to cross here. Leave your shoes off. We'll go around the bend. We got to cross again. When you know all that, you can do it in like 5 times the speed. But on the way out, it was slow going. Like we didn't know what was coming, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, I think we got pretty close. The other thing is, we were there in later September, right? Mid to late September.
Yeah.
And I think, we were getting into the foothills there, like right on the edge of these big Rocky Mountains. So I think that's kind of where the sheep were migrating out to at that point. Was when we talked to a few guys at Sheep Show anyway. So I think we were closer than we realized. We did have the spotting scopes on everything we could, but yeah, I think we also didn't have enough time. We went up for, how many days did we have?
I think we had 10.
10 days, including the drive. So we had like 8 days worth of hunting, and we wasted a day getting spun around, and we lost the trail. So we actually had like 7.
Yeah. Basically, if we had 3 more days, it would have been probably, maybe not a different outcome, but we would have been able to get further back there.
Yeah, we would have been in there.
So I think moral of the story is we want to do a fly-in and kind of get dropped right into the action. And that's the plan. Anyways, what's your experience with fly-in versus horses and jet boat, or do you have a preference? Or
I think that I guess all offer a little bit different experience. I think.
Yeah.
I think sheep are made to be backpack hunted. I mean, you guys are young, fit guys, and I think that they're a great animal to do that. I know a lot of outfits that run horses do so because they might have clientele that requires it. And in some country, big, long distances that you're moving into sheep country, perhaps where you guys were hunting last year, require a big 40 or 50 kilometer push in there to get into the goods, and horses are great for that. But as far as actually hunting them, I really think that they're custom made to backpack hunt.
Yeah.
You can spend time up on top. Hopefully there's some water up there that you can scrape out, or figure out a way to stay on the high points and sort of hunt your way down and travel and just live life out of a backpack's a bit more simpler than going back down to the bottom.
Totally.
Horsing around with horses. Jet boat program I've never done. Though I know it just seems like more and more people are getting those toys set up or getting dropped off. And so I guess for me, I would just, whatever the application is, whichever is going to provide the level of seclusion that I'm equally going for.
Exactly, yeah.
When it comes to having a great hunt and finding game, but also just kind of getting away from people. And so I think a fly-in is a great way to do that. But there's also areas that you can go pound in and sort of find a little honey hole. But I just think that equally, and you could go on a fly-in and get dropped off at a lake with 15 other people, or with a group that's just coming out. So there's no guarantees. But I do think that sheep are made to be backpack hunted, and wherever you end up going, getting high and sort of hunting along the ridges and looking down. That's what I think when I think of sheep hunting.
Right.
I don't think of pounding around and bushwhacking, although it always takes that to get up and where you want to go. But being up high is kind of where it's at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we were thinking. Like, we spent so much energy trying to get to the point where we could sit there and say, okay, that's where we want to get up high. It took so long to get to that point that we almost used up all of our time. So then we were thinking, okay, let's just get dropped off, and then we'll pick all these ridges and go, right? And we'll also take more time too and tack that on. So we should be able to spend a lot of time, up on the ridges.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy how 10 days seems, you think about 10 days, or you tell someone almost in any other activity, if you're going to go on a 10-day fishing trip, that sounds amazing. That's a trip of a lifetime. Are you even going to want to fish by the end of it?
Yeah.
And you think of a door-to-door 10-day sheep hunt, and you burn a day getting up there, half a day getting your gear shaken down, start hiking in. Google Earth always lies to you. It's always thicker and steeper than you think it was. And maybe you burn a couple weather days, and then all of a sudden the hourglass is running out of sand, and you're starting to backtrack and go, okay, how many days of food do I have left? How long is it going to take me to get out of here?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes by quick.
Yeah,
it goes by really quick. So I think, the more time that you can carve out to at least be a bit of a pressure relief to say, okay, I have up to 14 days on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if I get bumped a couple days with weather, you're not counting down the time. And that's just the thing about sheep hunting is you settle into it. It is a process. It is, methodically, day by day, hunting your way or traveling your way through this big country. And I think where I've gotten into trouble in the past is where you want it to happen right away.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going, okay, it's first day, where are the sheep at? Or this is my first hunt, how's it going to go down? Really, it's almost a lifelong journey.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a saying that the year you start hunting sheep is the year your ram is born. You guys have probably heard that enough times, but I do believe that. And I think that mindset that we are going to approach this as a bit of a craft and a bit of a journey and an experience that isn't necessarily going to happen right away, or it's not going to happen without the time and the work and the commitment to the process. And I think that when you do that with anything, I mean, really, you get a lot more gifts back from it.
For sure,
I can really relate to that, and pretty much everything in my life that once you make that commitment, it's all good. And it sounds like you guys have already made it. You've already been through a 10-dayer and planning another one. But I'm actually excited for both of you guys, because you're just at the start of this journey, and it's so fun it's one of the fun things about hunting is you're just going in it with nothing. You have no idea what you're doing, even when you hunt a new area. And then you start to put the pieces together over the course of a few days or many years, and all the puzzles line up. And all of a sudden you look back and you got this jigsaw puzzle, and you go, wow, okay, what's next? Now it's time to go after goats, or now it's time to go to overseas, or now it's time to bow hunt. There's just so much progression that you can do. You can spend a lifetime doing it. And I'm just, excited that you guys are diving in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an adventure for sure. I kind of hope that, that it does take that long.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit on the last one. It's just like,
because it's basically 8 years, right? That's what a legal ram is, 8 years old. So, 8 years from the day you start, that's how much time it's going to take to get your ram. But, and it kind of goes back into the social media thing that we bring up every time. But like, you see the photo of the person holding the sheep with the big smile, and it kind of, pisses some people off. But if you think about it, if that took them 8 years, if they were DIY kind of, and a lot of them they live up here and they're just going in 8 years to get that ram, like, I would have a big smile on my face too. I'd have probably tears too, like the amount of effort that went into that. 8 years, and how many kilometers per trip? 100 kilometers on your feet every trip. It's still not cheap, even if you're a resident, if you're getting dropped off on a plane or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It's like the ultimate adventure, I feel like, or journey in hunting, at least where we are.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like it's got to last at least 3 or 4 years before we get one, maybe 3 or 4 trips. I don't know about 8. That's quite a ways, but
any excuse to keep going back out there is okay with me.
Exactly.
From a gear perspective, do you pack much differently than you would just say if you're going for a mule deer hunt somewhere around here? What's your strategy for kind of planning and getting yourself ready for a multi-day sheep hunt?
Well, I think it all starts with, when it comes to hunting, at least, probably not other facets of my life, I like to fairly detail oriented, have lots of lists, keep a journal, sort of learn a few things from each hunt that I apply to the next hunt, whether that's tactics or little pieces of gear that I want to omit or that I want to bring in.
Yeah.
So I've got this body of work of lists and notes to start off of it, at least. It's sort of the foundation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's not exorbitantly different than just a backcountry mule deer hunt. It's not exorbitantly different than a big through hike. If you do lots of backpacking, you got your basic concepts of your clothing system, your shelter, your cooking system, and then on top of that, because you're hunting, you've got your weapon and your optics.
Yeah.
And I think that you sort of break those buckets out. You start looking at lists. You start looking at people's lists from other genres, maybe not even from hunting. That's something that I do a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at there's so much information out there on the internet. It's crazy, but you can get exactly what person X took to do the Continental Divide Trail for 6 months. Okay, that's one list. Here's Adam Foss's sheep hunting list. Okay, that's another list. Here's somebody else's late season moose hunting list for Alaska. And you sort of take and steal from all these things to put them into practice into your own. And so it sort of all starts with a big list. And then I just start thinking about the hunt and asking myself questions like, what time of year am I going up there? Is it early season? Is it later in the season? Might swap out some insulation pieces to have something a little bit warmer if it's later. I start thinking about the style of hunt. If it's going to be pretty active, if it's a big walk-in, I'm going to probably try and go like almost as light as I can, because as you guys probably saw, if you're burning 3 or 4 days to get there, that means you're carrying 3 or 4 extra days of food to get there, which means you're doing 2 and a bit pounds of food a day. It's another 7 or 8 pounds, and you had to carry that all the way to get there. And you actually got no real ability to hunt with that extra food days once you got there. It's gone, right? And then you got to burn that, or at least half of it when you get out. And so thinking about how the level of travel dictates how much food and gear that you need to bring is something that I think about a lot. And I don't know, I kind of go back and forth between pretty minimalist and trying to be lighter, and then I'll have like a hunt that'll sort of knock me back down and remind me, hey, the Bomber 4-season tent that weighs another 1.5 pounds is worth it.
Right.
Maybe the deck of cards is worth it.
Yeah.
How many times have you been sitting in a tent? Oh, I wish we had a deck of cards. I wish I had a book. And I always drill back to, there is a level of enjoyment that you're trying to have in this, and hunting is challenging and fulfilling, and I just have so many great memories of things that could be negative experience, like sitting in a tent, actually being a super positive one, and getting to know somebody and knowing we're not going to leave our tent for 3 days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're shooting the shit, playing cards, and that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I guess I was trying to talk about where you land on the spectrum of, do I want to go as light as I possibly can, or do I want a little bit more creature comforts and maybe some more safety built in? And I think that a lot of people might see what others are doing on the internet and talking about, and they'll go ultra light. Mm-hmm. I want to be ultra light. I want to be the ultra light hunter. And not really keeping in mind that the people that do that are accepting a certain amount of risk.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're okay with that.
Yeah.
They might be super experienced. They might have a plan to get out of there. They might have no idea what they're doing and actually just get lucky and everything works out. But I think that until you sort of evolve into that, there's a nice happy medium that each person, it's a very personal choice. And it's actually a choice that you make with your hunting partner, right? So when you think about those creature comforts, where do you guys land? What can you share? What item does double duty? And how do you build a system together that allows you to line up with your values and your personal preferences so that you have this choice that you make that dictates every little piece of gear. Is safety important to us? It sounds like it might be, and it really should be. And everything else rolls out from there because you can get lost in the ocean of information. Well, should my tent weigh 36 ounces or 38 ounces? Do I need this sleeping bag? Should I be sleeping with a quilt instead of a bag? Should I be sleeping on the ground? Should I be using a tarp and not even using a tent? Do I need a spotting scope? 15 power or 8 power binos? Or do my boots weigh too much? How many calories per ounces am I running with? Do I need rope or crampons or ice axes or all this stuff? And it just sort of washes over you and you go, whoa. But once I think you have that high level answer to the question of what kind of hunt do you want this to be? What kind of experience are you going after? What kind of person are you that's going through this? And it'll allow you to make those decisions. And then it's an evolution from there. You guys had your gear list from last year and it evolves. And I think that if you've never been on a sheep hunt before, I think that there's lots of ways that you can simulate it. You can go on a 2-day overnight backpacking trip. Grab your stuff, throw in your backpack. You can bring your hunting stuff or not. Find a trail wherever you live. There has to be one. If not, you need to move because you need to get outside on a regular basis, whether it's steep or flat, whatever. Just go out there, hike as far as you can, set up your camp, sit there, and then hike out. It'll just give you those little micro tests along the way because each time, whether it's an epic 20-day sheep hunt or it's a quick overnight, I think that the person learns a little bit each time. And so it starts there. You kind of evolve it, you test it, and you just are in this, you're in it. And it's only going to get better from there. And you're going to start to realize functionally how these things work together, how you pack them, how you either decide to bring them or not. And that's when you're going to be most successful at getting something gear-wise that makes sense for you.
Yep.
That was a very long-winded answer. Maybe we can go more specific.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer, I think, because it is very much a personal choice, I think. I know between the three of us, we had one guy that came with us last year as well. Our pack weights varied quite a bit. So, but comfort, I think, is an important thing. We were talking about this on the last one, and guys who are going stoveless. For me, I'll take a stove and that just so I can have hot coffee, man, because that's, for me, there's no better way to start off a day, or even when you're just sitting there glassing for an afternoon, to be able to fire up some coffee is huge. And I'll take the penalty for that. But if guys want to go stoveless and do that, then go for it. But yeah.
I also think that there's, and maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but there's a level of, I want to be so tough that I don't need a stove and tell people that and I don't know who you're interviewing, and this is sort of a bit off topic, but there's a level of, I want to do it for the sake of saying that I did it, not necessarily that's the best, smartest way to hunt. Yeah. And so stoveless, I think, personal choice again. Maybe some people really have enjoyment out of going into the mountains without a stove for 10 days. I sure as hell would not. It doesn't sound enjoyable to me. Exactly. And I really think that you're potentially limiting your hunt. I think great sleep, being warm and dry, being well caffeinated, all those things are going to lead up to the end goal, which is we're trying to kill a pretty damn smart animal that's been living in the mountains for 8 or 9 or 10 years. And if I am going to glass for 15 seconds longer because I had a great cup of coffee and find a little curl of a horn in some willows, that made a difference right there, right? Yeah. And it didn't matter that the guy had 1.5 pounds less weight in his pack. He's, still going out maybe empty because something like that led to being able to find the animal that you're looking for, right?
Yeah. A little bit of comfort goes a long way. I think I heard or I read one article where you said you take a Helix chair a lot of times, lightweight camp chair. if you're sitting there glassing all day, you can actually sit in a chair. It makes a huge difference. So that's something I was looking into is, getting one of those little lightweight chairs.
They're pretty handy. Yeah. And I evolved into that. Actually was using a heavier backpack, switched to a lighter backpack, a Stone Glacier, and was going, okay, I'm used to carrying this system with this much weight. I just shaved about 2 pounds out of it. I could bring 4 beers, or I could just pocket the 2 pounds, or I could bring something else. And I'd started using a chair in the desert in Arizona. And just because when you hunt with guys down there for coos deer or desert mule deer, they always sit on a tripod chair or a foldable chair with 15s or Dr. Optics or Loas, big, huge binoculars, and they sit there and glass all day. And they find, 90-pound deer 3 miles away.
Right.
And you think about that compared to what I'm more used to, which is sort of running and gunning and definitely glassing, but free-handing 8s and not really just sitting there and picking apart the country, right? You watch those guys glass and find animals, like, wow. They sit there, they're comfortable, they're on a great glassing knob, and they just pick it apart. Of course, there's more deer in Arizona than there is stone sheep in the mountains, but I think that concept does translate to an animal like a stone sheep who blends in really well. I mean, they of all the sheep species, they're the best at blending in. And so that does apply to being comfortable sitting there. Okay, I'm going to be here for a couple of hours and I'm going to glass. And the chair is just, it's a comfort thing, and it's also a tool that sort of sets you down into that. And so I took those 2 pounds, got the chair, brought it on a 24-day hunt. We were doing this film that we did for Yeti, Arctic Red film, and it was just a long slog. And I said, I bought 2 chairs. I was like, I'm gonna bring a chair. And say, hey, anyone else want this chair at base camp? We don't need a chair. And I said, okay, it's 24 days. And
nobody took it.
And nobody took it. And I should have had an auction for my chair that I did bring, because I feel like
should have brought both and sold it.
Exactly. And so chair, no chair. I know a lot of guys, and I did this in late season too. You cut up the Thermarest foam pad to sit on, even little things like that. That thing weighs nothing. At the very least, put your butt pad down. You can kind of prop your backpack up with your ice axe or a trekking pole and make a little chair or make a little rock chair, but sort of commit to the fact that, hey, I'm going to be here for a while. I'm going to find an animal. And I think those are mistakes that I've made in the past. You kind of get up, you look around for the obvious stuff. You look around the ridge lines, you look around for a big white butt stand in the open park, and you go, nothing's here. Let's roll. Glassed it. Really, the animal isn't going to be where you think it can be or you want it to be. It's going to be wherever the hell it is. And I think that's something that I'm sort of trying to evolve more into, and the better hunters that I've hunted with and know are very much like that. They're very patient.
Right.
And they really give it a good look. So
cool.
The chair is one of those things that helps do that. And also you can sell it to your buddies when they don't when they don't bring it.
One of the things that we're looking at right now is shelters, specifically for this type of hunt. And you touched on a good point. There's a risk spectrum and a lightweight spectrum. I think we're a little more, I tend to lean a little more on the safe side. Not over, obviously we have to be able to pack this stuff in, but I don't want to shave weight just because we're shaving weight. I would prioritize that shelter a little more than some other things, depending, based on where we're going, northern BC. We're looking at Hillebergs, and one of the questions is, what does a 4-season tent bring you over that 3-season tent? Does it keep you warmer? Or there's a couple of questions we have around that. And then ultimately, what are your top Hillebergs for this type of, August, September, high altitude sheep hunt?
Cool. Yeah. So first question, the 3-season over the 4-season, so they do their labels in colors. They do yellow label, which is their 3-season, red label, which is their 4-season, then black label, which is their 4-season, XL. Right. And you have to keep in mind that the company Hilleberg, when they rate their tents, they rate them their standard, not really to my standard or your standard. Their 3-season tents are built, and I can say from personal experience, better than a lot of other companies what they would call 4-season tent,
right?
Which is great. But they really want you to have a positive experience, and they don't ever want your tent to let you down. So they call it a 3-season because you're going to save some weight. But they don't want you taking that in the snow because they'd rather you be super safe and comfortable. Every one of those tents is absolutely bomber and like overbuilt. So the differences specifically between the 3 and the 4 seasons are you're going to get a little bit of ventilation. So if you see the way that the outer tent comes down to the ground in the 3-season, there's actually a little bit of a gap all around it. So that's going to give you better ventilation. It's going to save a little bit of weight just because that's extra fabric. But really, it's about ventilation. It's going to stop. You're going to be totally waterproof from rain. But the difference is when you get a big snow load and you get that spin drift blowing underneath, it's not going to stop that. And so the 4 seasons go right to the ground. The other thing is the fabric's going to be stronger. So they kind of rate 3 different types of fabric. You're going to get their strongest curl-on fabric in the 4-season stuff. So that's going to stop against tears and punctures. And I've never had any failure on the actual fabric in one of those tents. You could have a problem with, it's got to be something sharp that punctures it. A tree's got to fall on it. You got to hit it with your crampon. It just really, and they give you even the little test fabric with the catalog that you can try and tear. It's crazy. And so, but you are going to get a little bit better fabric, which is going to stop any of those punctures and I guess huge gale force winds that are pounding up against it. You're going to get stronger guy lines, so a little bit bigger gauge on the actual tensioners that you're going to tension the structure out with. Never had a guy line fail one way or the other, but you're going to get a stronger one. And so the main difference is sort of all those little small additions make it a little bit bomber as you sort of go up in from 3-season to 4-season to black label. And they're all going to cost you a little bit more weight. And so I would think about the number one question is it going to, well, there's 2 questions, but first, is it going to snow? What is the perceivable chance that it could snow on this hunt? And I would say, BC, first 2 weeks of August, it can obviously snow in any month, but I'm probably making the call that it's not going to in August, and then into 4th week of August and into September, over 10 or 14 days, it probably is going to snow. And it could snow 8 inches.
Right.
It could snow a foot. And so if I think that there's a likely chance that it could snow, I'm probably bringing one of the 4 seasons.
Right.
And I'm okay with making that cost in weight to provide that level of comfort. And also the hunt's going to keep going.
Yeah.
The hunt's going to keep going. If I'm on day 7, it snows 1.5 feet. We're inside, we're playing cards, and we're going to get up and keep going. And so that's sort of how I think about it. What else can I say about the 4 seasons?
Do they keep you warmer than or it's not like really an insulated situation, right?
Yeah, no, it's not insulation, but you're going to trap a bit more air because you're going to get the airflow underneath the outer tent in the 3 seasons. So in a 4 season, it's going to kind of seal right down to the ground, and it will be a little bit warmer, but I wouldn't really say, I'd say you should bump up your sleeping bag more than you should bump up your tent for a reliable increase in warmth. And the other thing on sleep systems is I think a lot of people overlook their thermarest or their pad, which actually provides quite a bit of warmth. And I think see guys in if we're talking Celsius, -10 or -20 degree sleeping bag with a 2.2 rated thermarest, right? And which is a low R, there's a number that they give to thermarest R values. It's a low R value. They have a great sleeping bag, but they don't have the warmest sleeping pad. And I think that you bump up that thermarest, you bump up that sleeping pad to a higher R value, and you actually don't need as warm of a sleeping bag. Depends if you're a hot or a cold sleeper, but I've really seen that actually. And so that's where I would go to when you're thinking about actual warmth. Sleeping bag, sleeping pad is going to give you that warmth. The 4-season tent is going to give you that protection from the elements, protection from wind, rain, snow. The other number 2 question, when the first question is it going to snow, is where am I going to be pitching this thing? And so a sheep hunt right away, we talked about it earlier on the podcast, I'm going to be up high. It's going to be windy. I'm going to be in little mountain passes. I'm going to be pretty exposed. And if you're hunting moose or elk down at the bottom, probably not as exposed. You can find some trees. you're a little bit more protected. So right away, that sort of is another answer to the question that, hey, maybe I do need to really be thinking about a 4-season because I'm going to get that level of protection.
Right. And being up high like that, I was thinking freestanding is probably the way to go just for ease of setting it up. But I know that it really depends. But they've got tunnel tents and freestanding, right? Do you tend to lean more to the freestanding?
I've actually transitioned a bit to the tunnel tents. They're a little bit lighter. You get a little bit more usable space. So basically, if you look at a tunnel, it's a upside down U. And so you get all that usable space from the tent. And so a freestanding is going to be more like an upside down bowl.
Right.
And so you can have that usable space as vestibules, but a tunnel is going to be, when you're in the tent, the walls go straight up and they curve over. So you have all that usable volume as opposed to tapering down and being ducked in a little bit more. So relatively for the space that you get, they're a little bit lighter. The thing on tunnel tents is I think they come with a little bit of a bad reputation that people don't necessarily understand how to set them up. And there's a process. You sort of pin in the front, you stretch it like an accordion, you pin in the toe, you run around and guy line it out. And basically all the different guy lines are fighting each other to pulling tension away from the tent and keeping it really strong. And those tents, when you set them up right, I mean, they do wind tunnel testing up to however many kilometers an hour, and they are quite strong. But freestanding does have that level of ease where you throw it in, you throw it down, and we're starting to set this thing up. And I think that for perhaps a more medium or less experienced person, a freestanding, it does come with that little bit greater level of ease. Also, if you're rolling through the timber and you just are going to throw a tent up really quickly and this is just a quick hot stop, we're going to sleep for a few hours and then keep going, a freestand, you might not have to guy out all those lines. So you can pop it up, keep rolling, and away you go. So I've used the tunnels a little bit more just because I do like the amount of space that you get. And then in doing some of the film and photography stuff that I've done over the last number of years, the big vestibule space on tents like the Anhyan 3 GT and the Nalo GTs. So the GT is they're basically determining that you're going to get an extra pole on the tunnel style tents. Is going to give you an extra amount of vestibule room. They're great for camera gear. So you throw, if I'm with a partner, we've got our packs, we can throw our packs down, we can get into our packs, we can reorganize, maybe we're charging stuff with a solar panel. It just helps with the gear explosion. When you're just hunting, it is not the freestanding, the tent like in an alac, like a 2-person tent that perhaps you guys have looked at. You're not going to get as much total vestibule room, but it's plenty enough for a hunter, and you have 2 entrances and exits. So you have your side, I have my side, and you can keep your gear organized that way. I like the tube style for a big filming event where we all have our stuff together and we're trading gear back and forth from what we did during the day, and we can see everything and everything's dry, and have grown to like that level of coverage.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I know you were looking at the Nalo.
Yeah.
Nalo GT.
I think
it's pretty lightweight.
Yeah, shelters in general, it's hard to find one that covers every situation.
Yeah, it's like a bike.
Yeah. So we'll just have to get 2.
We'll get 2 different
We've
ones.
got the TP tent is what we used last time, but with a bigger footprint, you're pretty limited for where you can set that up. So it's nice to have options, obviously, when you're going out there. Becomes a pretty expensive road to go down, but if it's something that you're, pursuing actively, and safety is obviously going to be a concern.
Now 2 GT is a great option. It's one that bleeds the line between full 4-season protection, but it's still relatively light.
Right.
And I think that if I was gonna, before we even start talking, I would say that would be the one that I would recommend for a September hunt.
Right.
If you guys are doing late August, September, that'd be a great one. Earlier in the season, you can probably get away with a 3-season.
Right.
Although if you're going to buy one and you do have plans to do some middle to later season, it's probably better to do a 4-season tent and hump the extra 1.5 pounds in August and call it good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's good information.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. From a gear perspective, what else are there, like a couple top items that you just wouldn't leave home without?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think, I've got the whole clothing system and boots and optics and all the basic stuff. I think a couple things that have been carrying in the last few years that I have urged people to carry, or at least open up the conversation. And one of those is a DeLorme InReach. I guess they're Garmin now. They are awesome. They've helped change the way that I hunt a little bit, in that that especially if you're hunting perhaps not on a sheep hunt but a bit more locally, you can hunt further and harder for bigger animals like elk by yourself or with one other person. Help is on the way. If you shoot an elk, by the time you get it broken down, processed, and hung, it might take you 4 or 5 or 6 hours to do all that by yourself. If you're 4 or 5 or 6 hours in after a drive and a hike, your friends are literally getting there when you're hanging the last quarter.
Yeah.
So that from a hunting perspective is great. And then from a safety perspective, the people that care about you know that you're fine, they're checking in, and my family and friends love to follow along too and see whether my wife's with me or not. She loves to say, oh, you guys are camping down on the bottom. Oh, you guys are up high. You guys had a big day. Hey, you guys haven't moved in 5 days. What are you doing? So that's fun. But also she and others have that peace of mind. Okay, these guys are safe.
Yeah.
They're having a great time. If anything goes wrong, I know that I carry that thing right in my hip pocket. I can hit the ripcord, hit the SOS, and help is on the way. So that's one thing that I really have tried to have. And one thing I would mention is at the bottom of your pack is not the place for it, right? If something happens, especially by yourself, you roll over and break your femur, at the bottom of your 70-pound pack, it's pretty much, you might as well not have brought it.
Yeah.
And so having it on you, having it ready, knowing how to use it, test it before you go out, set up your messages. And it's just don't even do it for yourself. Do it for the people that care about you, because you're going to go and have a better, more enjoyable hunt, because you know that the people that care about you are rooting you on rather than worrying about you.
Yeah.
So I think those little safety items, like the InReach, I carry a little bivvy that's basically an advancement on the old school space blankets that you'd see people bring, but you can just pull it all up over your body. I don't even know. It might weigh 4 ounces or something.
Yeah.
Same sort of a thing. If my hunting partner goes down, I can get him in a sleeping bag, or at the very least, we don't have our sleeping bags with us, get him in that bivvy, keep him warm, hit that SOS, and at least some level of help is coming.
Yeah.
So those are things that I've sort of picked up along the way. And then, I mean, there's tons of time that we could spend talking about all the other stuff, but there's a basic, all the clothing and all the boots and all the optics and that sort of thing. But those are two things that I try to not leave home without, especially on a longer hunt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the InReach. I'm on my second one now because one got stolen out of my truck. But as soon as it got stolen the next week, it was just, I have to get another one.
Yeah.
It's pretty essential. We've also had a bit of a learning curve on it because, sometimes you promise to touch base, and then I had a situation where sometimes the system does go down, and it doesn't. I found it doesn't go down on all, like emails will go through, but SMS won't, or vice versa. Like I've had one situation there where I just sent SMS, and they didn't get it until the next morning. And we didn't tell them that we were going to be, camping out in the bush that night. So everybody was just freaking out. But now what I do is I'll just send 2 messages. So I'll send the email and the SMS at the same time. Every single time I know at least one of them is going to go.
Nice.
But that could just be like a rare personal experience that happened on my side. I do love that thing though.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
tip. I love how it sends the GPS location too, right? Like you just send a message, the GPS goes with it. So people know where you are. And like you said, they can log into the website and follow along with you if you have that turned on. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Having one more might not be a bad idea. You've got one, but
yes, exactly. I think it would be a great idea. So we'll have 3 guys next year. I don't know how early we should actually be, booking a lot of this stuff. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, book times or wait times and, what kind of plane size you need for 3 guys and an animal and that kind of thing. But, we're complete noobs.
Yeah, no, I think you guys are, the thing is you're planning it pretty nicely in advance. I think a lot of pilots or charter companies are going to be in the field right now, hustling and bustling. So you don't really have, you don't have to feel the panic too much. But I think if you can get with them in the wintertime when they're sort of scheduling out what they have going on. It's great. And the earlier the better. And depending on who you talk to, they might actually give you some pointers as, hey, we're thinking about going to this spot. What do you think? And might say, hey, yeah, that's great. Haven't dropped somebody there in a while. I think that's a good call. Or yeah, I dropped 15 guys there last year. Still a great call, or maybe not. But having that conversation, a lot of people, as you guys know, that you encounter in this hunting world are just great people. And,
yeah, man.
They'll be more totally willing to help, and especially if you're doing it in advance. So I'd say, get into it this winter when you start thinking about it and looking at some maps. And yeah, I think plane size, they'll be able to tell you what they have in their fleet and what they're doing. But I think, something like a beaver or something for 3 guys and a bunch of gear. And you sort of always play out the best case scenario, which is maybe you guys kill 2 sheep, goats might be open, you kill a goat or something, right? So what could that look like? You probably don't want to be sitting there and you're going to like triple header on some rams and you go, oh, well, we can't fit the extra animal in the plane. So, but they'll be able to help you with all that stuff. And I mean, you can always make 2 trips if you have the worst case scenario that you guys connected on too many animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a wealth of knowledge with the people that do that for a living that can help sort of dial you in. And you guys are doing it great because you're far in advance and it's fun. Like I always think I think there's a theory that if you book a vacation X amount of time in advance, it's a more positive experience, better. You get excited about it all along the way, and you guys get to meet up and drink beers and roll the maps out. Yeah, that part of it is as much about the hunt as actually being there.
Totally.
And so if someone said you can go on a sheep hunt tomorrow, you would go, sweet, I'm going to grab all my stuff and go. But if you said August 1st, 2019, you're going on a sheep hunt, every single decision that you make, whether it's planning or fitness or diet or gear, is leading towards that goal and objective, and that's part of the fun too. So I think this winter is a great time to sort of start the fire of excitement and drink some beers and plan some hunts.
Yep. What are you doing to? Is there anything in particular you're doing to train for this type of stuff? Or are you relying just on the fact that, like, you seem like you're pretty active all year, or are you like hitting the gym? Or are you doing anything in particular?
It's been a love-hate relationship. I guess I grew up, I was an athlete all my life. I played college lacrosse and boxed for a number of years. And doing that was just a big part of my life. I was never not playing sports or competing. And I think that like level of competition translates into hunting and why it's interesting. It's a competition now with only yourself really, and the animal a little bit, but it is sort of a self-reflective competition. And so that's just I've always done that. And sort of fitness has been a part of those activities. Retiring as an athlete in the traditional sense has led to a little bit of a break on the hitting the fitness hard. And I think in this lifestyle that we live, it's like we hunt in the fall and summer, we go to trade shows and eat cheeseburgers and drink beer with our buddies. And then we try to reverse all the damage that we did and get back to it. So I usually do, the last few years I do CrossFit for a couple of months, like May, June is usually when I start it. So that's what I did these last 2 months, and trying to get out with a pack and some weight as much as possible. I don't think there's any substitution for that ever. Yep. Because no matter how fit you are, you throw in that pack and it always is like, whew, man, is this, am I bringing all this? And so if you were going to, I only have time to spend 3 hours a week on fitness, I would say spend 2 or 2.5 of them on just getting a sandbag from Home Depot, throwing it in a pack and cruising around. And that's going to help break your boots in, break your pack in, break your body in to be able to do exactly what you're doing, which is really, it's not a ultra marathon or a crazy athletic endeavor. It is a grind and it will hurt, but there's no hurry. Put one foot after the other, and training yourself physically as much as you're training yourself mentally will go a long way. And the heavy pack is a great way to do that. So I've sort of, in the last few years, have had this up and down and all around relationship with fitness and hot and cold. And then through the summer and the fall, those hunts that you do just kind of carry you through, and you're kind of living like an animal. Like right now, I'm like, yeah, just living on the road, eating Sour Patch Kids for breakfast, and hoping that I can make it through another season. But I actually got a buddy named Lucas who's a personal trainer. And he said, hey, I want to, he's from Oregon. He's an awesome dude. And he said, hey, well, let's like crank this fitness thing up. I know you go up and down, and let me try to give you a program and help even those peaks and valleys out. And so he developed this program and some stuff to do on the road and some body weight exercises.
Cool.
And his whole philosophy, and he's a super cool guy, but his whole philosophy is just all the small things add up to the big things.
Right.
And so if you're going to do 20 push-ups when you wake up in the morning, it might not seem like a lot. It's not going to determine whether or not you kill a stone sheep in a year or not, but that 20 push-ups every single day added up leads to all these other sort of elevated levels of decisions that you're making and commitments you're making to the end goal.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, where I've gone up and down, I'd rather just sort of have this trajectory that's just going along and sort of slowly increasing and thinking about it in the big picture. So if you're going to join CrossFit and work out 5 days a week and hit it hard for a month and then burn out, it doesn't really get you very far.
Yeah.
I think it's all those little small things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it has to be sustainable, and you have to have fun doing it.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're not going to keep doing it, right? So
Yeah.
awesome.
100%. Cool. We can start wrapping up things here. Anything else you might want to add to sheep hunt side of things?
We feel like we could be here for a couple of weeks.
We could.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about all the different kinds of sheep and all different kinds of sheep hunting because, like you said, you focused a lot on the bighorn side of things, and then you've been to desert sheep and all that kind of stuff too. So I'm sure like it's a different world within each sheep hunt, right? But I'm sure we could talk for days.
Well, we got a year to go, so we can
Yeah.
get you back in here.
Yeah, we can always be back. I would say, well, I like the idea of that you guys are sort of on this path and on this journey, and you're going to go about this in the way that you can really sink in and enjoy the process along the way. So I think, we can circle back up or talk more detail because I think that there's just so many little chapters here, right? Like we got into shelters for a while. We could do a whole thing on that. You can get into clothing and gear for a while. But I think I would just say high level, probably big mistakes that people make for a hunt is, or the biggest opportunities to have probably nothing go wrong is a great pair of boots that fit you that you've broken in, which you guys probably already know. Great backpack that you've tried. And that's why that training with a weighted backpack sort of checks those two boxes. Yeah. If something is going to go horribly wrong, it's probably not going to be that you weren't in quite as good a shape as you could have been. It's going to be your feet get blistered and crap out on you, or something happens, your pack is just not feeling right, and you're going, I can't do this, I got to quit. So keeping that in mind, those two things are sort of the foundation for everything else as you go through this thing. So the other thing, I mean, everybody always says it, but getting the best optics that you can. And I think that because like stone sheep are, like I was mentioning, a pretty tricky animal to find. It's doing all these little micro testing opportunities, whether it's a weekend backpacking trip, but also doing a backpack mule deer hunt is great. I mean, that's high country mule deer is like sheep hunting.
Right.
They have taller antlers on their head, but they're very similar. You want to be moving through the country and hitting the high spots and thinking about where you're glassing from, thinking about animal behavior. They're up in the morning feeding. They're going to go in bed here. They're going to get back up. It's not the exact same thing, but it is very similar. And so if you have those opportunities to do those, whether it's for 2 days or a week around home, those are all those little training chapters that are going to build to something greater. Yeah. It doesn't have to be you go on one sheep hunt every 5 years and that's your one time to get more rooted in this stuff. It's all those other things that you're hunting, you know?
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Cool. Want to leave us with a hunting story?
What kind of hunting story do you guys want to hear?
Anything, man. We've had all kinds of different stuff on here. So
yeah, we've had everything from Sasquatch to yeah. No, we've had some good ones.
Yeah. Shane Mahoney's caribou story, I think, tops the list still. But
yeah, but any story Shane tells is it's like Sean Connery, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I just got back from Haida Gwaii, so I guess one story that pops in my mind, we were sneaking around and we were trying to get in on these deer, and we actually came up over the rise, and there was pretty good sized black bear, and he was sitting there, and he's maybe 40 yards away. Oh, that's kind of cool. And we kind of looking at him, and he was he was sort of digging around and doing black bear things, and oh, that's awesome. There's a golden eagle sitting up above the tree. Like, oh, nature, this is really cool. And we were looking around, and all of a sudden he just sort of was coming our way. He pops up. Oh, stretches, pretty big boar, and now he's like 8 yards away. And we're like, oh, okay, right on. And he's sniffing. Our wind's sort of blowing sideways to him. I think he kind of smelled us. And, bears kind of have poor eyesight anyways.
Yeah.
But he's looking at us. He's not too concerned. And then we hear some splashing, and we're like, oh, maybe there's another bear coming. That'd be kind of cool. And we look over, and this deer is swimming across this little lake like 40 yards away, and he's cruising up. And anyways, this bear comes a couple steps closer, and I'm with my buddy Ben, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go shoot that buck, and then we'll come back and deal with this black bear. He's like, okay, cool. So I ran down there, and the deer kind of walked up and shot him, and he's sitting behind me. He's just taking pictures of the black bear, and he swings his camera around. Got some like really cool pictures of like me at full draw on this deer, sort of out there in the rocks, and shoot the deer, turn around, look at him. This bear is sort of still coming along. And I kind of run back to him, and I got both. I throw my bow down. I grab both bear sprays, knock the safeties off, and I was like, holy, like what's happening? He's like, I don't know. This bear was like coming, but I want to take pictures of you and this deer, and he's still right here. We're like, what do I do? He's a buddy of mine from Vancouver, spent lots of time outside with, but hasn't done a lot of hunting or anything.
Yeah.
And so anyways, in a matter of, 20 seconds, we're hanging out with this black bear. It's coming closer. Golden eagles are flying around. This deer is there. We shoot the buck. We come back, sort of scare this black bear off. We didn't really want to go anywhere. I think those bears are used to a lot of free meals.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much food in the ocean, and it kind of finally lumbers off. But this guy is my buddy Ben's one of my best friends in the world. And he was just, does this happen all the time? Like you're just out there. This is like hunting, like animals, and you're at close quarters. I'm like, well, not really. I mean, not really at all. But he thought that was pretty cool. And
it's like, no, that was actually a dangerous situation.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't figure this bear out. It was as if he was very chill.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if they don't, maybe they see a lot of people and they don't really care, or there's no grizzly bears, obviously, so they don't really have any threats. And he's a big boar and just kind of walking along. And
yeah. So were you both in the open, like the bear and your buddy there, or was he like kind of concealed somehow from this bear?
Yeah, we were sitting on this big knob, and we came over, and the bear was right tucked in behind this knob, and he just, as he came around the knob, it was just revealing more and more of him. And so, yeah, we were like tucked in and just sitting there, but we weren't really moving around or anything. And yeah, he just couldn't really figure us out, or just didn't care. Yeah, bears are, especially at close quarters sometimes. I don't know, you get close to a bear and they know, like, how can they not know you're there?
Yeah.
But they don't really seem to care. I know, hunting in Alberta growing up, sitting in a tree stand, you can bait bears in Alberta, and you sit over at bait in a tree stand, and they come in and they look right at you, and they go, okay, and they'll walk in and they'll grab some of the bait or whatever. And you see videos on YouTube and stuff all the time of all these bear interactions, or the younger ones will come up the tree. I've had that before. They'll come up a tree and sort of sniff your boots, and they're smart. Like, they're very smart animals, and they walk in the same footsteps in as they do out, and you can see them. It's almost like a dog when the dog's on the welcome mat at home, and it's thinking about going across to the kitchen, and knows it's not supposed to be in the kitchen, and it's like walking and looking at you, and then reaches the linoleum that they're not supposed to be on, and then hey, and then they kind of back up. But anyways, it's just this kind of a crazy chain of events that, the cool thing was having my buddy with me who was going, oh geez, like, does this happen all the time? And sometimes you go out hunting with someone and have experiences like that, and you go, well, I don't know, I've been hunting however long, 15 or so, 20 or whatever years, and I've never had something like that happen where there's a bear and there's a deer, and then you shoot the deer, and then you come back with the bear, and then you're sort of dealing with the deer and wondering where this bear is.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. Each time, you never know. It's mutually exclusive. Like, You have no idea.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to interact with that much stuff. That's why we go out there.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, that's a good place to end her.
All right.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was really fun.
Anytime. Cheers.
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 This episode of Rookie Hunter was also brought to you by North Arm Knives. North Arm Knives are handcrafted and sold directly through a father and son team right here in British Columbia. Choose from a selection of outdoor knives, kitchen knives, and custom engravings from northarmknives.com. They ship internationally and guarantee all of their work. Kelly and I have put their products to the ultimate test and give them our stamp of approval. Head over to northarmknives.com.